The Federal Reserve just made a decision that guarantees a mathematical outcome. Not speculation, observable monetary policy with predictable consequences. U.S. national debt stands at $38 trillion. Interest payments just crossed $1 trillion annually, exceeding defense and Medicare spending combined. And the Fed just cut rates again. I'm Marcus Caldwell. What I'm about to show you is a four-stage fiat currency stress framework that has manifested identically across every debt-saturated monetary system in recorded history. The Fed is making a deliberate choice between two outcomes: immediate system failure or gradual currency purchasing power destruction. They're choosing the second option. They always choose the second option. Let me walk you through the four-stage cycle. Stage 1. Sound monetary foundations. Currency backed by tangible assets, typically precious metals. This creates confidence, attracts commerce, enables genuine wealth accumulation. Stage 2. Expansion and fiscal temptation. Success breeds confidence. Confidence breeds borrowing. Wars get funded, social programs expand, deficits become normalized. The central bank becomes buyer of last resort. Money creation accelerates, but growth initially masks the decay. Stage 3. Crisis and desperation. Debt becomes mathematically unsustainable. Interest payments devour tax revenue. The central bank faces an impossible constraint: raise rates and crash the economy, or print money and destroy currency value. They always choose to print. That's where we are right now. Stage 4. Collapse and reset. Either hyperinflation or sovereign default. Currency loses credibility. Savings evaporate. Social order fractures. The system resets through chaos, always through middle-class wealth destruction. Before I prove this with historical evidence, subscribe to the Equity Edge and turn on notifications. This channel provides analysis that challenges institutional narratives. Your subscription supports independent research connecting economic patterns across centuries. Now let me show you the receipts. Rome, the greatest empire the ancient world produced. At its peak, it controlled the entire Mediterranean with unmatched military power. The denarius was trusted from Britain to Egypt. Stage 1 was legitimate. The denarius started at 95% pure silver, real money with real value. Rome's economy thrived on conquest, trade, and disciplined taxation. But Stage 2 brought expansion costs. Emperor after emperor funded massive military operations, monuments, public works. The Colosseum wasn't cheap. Neither were legions guarding thousands of miles of frontier. So they debased the currency. Nero reduced silver content to 90%, then 85%. Each emperor shaved more. By Emperor Aurelian in the 3rd century, the denarius was less than 5% silver. The rest was bronze coated in thin silver wash. Stage 3 hit hard. Inflation spiraled catastrophically. A measure of wheat that cost 8 drachmas in the 2nd century cost 100 by the 3rd. Citizens lost faith. Merchants refused payment. The government enforced price controls, which never work. When you criminalize market prices, sellers stop selling. Trade collapsed. People reverted to barter. Soldiers demanded payment in goods rather than worthless coins. Stage 4. The Western Roman Empire disintegrated. Not from barbarian invasion alone. The barbarians walked through a door monetary collapse had opened. When currency is worthless, you can't pay soldiers. When you can't pay soldiers, you can't defend borders. 500 years of decline followed because they printed their way out of debt. Weimar Germany, 1920s. You've seen the images. Wheelbarrows of cash for bread. But do you understand the mechanism? Stage 1. Germany before World War I had disciplined monetary policy. The Reichsmark was gold-backed. Germany was an industrial powerhouse with a thriving middle class. Stage 2. The war destroyed everything. Germany borrowed heavily, issued war bonds, printed money. They lost. The Treaty of Versailles demanded 132 billion gold marks in reparations. German GDP was only 12 billion marks annually, an impossible burden. So they printed, slowly at first, then exponentially. Stage 3 came terrifyingly fast. In 1921, $1 bought 75 marks. By November 1923, $1 bought 4.2 trillion marks. In less than 3 years, the currency lost essentially all value. Prices doubled every few days, then every few hours. Workers were paid twice daily because money lost value faster than they could spend it. A loaf of bread cost 200 billion marks. Imagine working your entire life, saving 100,000 marks for retirement, then watching it become worth less than a single loaf of bread. The middle class was annihilated completely, but the wealthy survived because they held real assets: land, factories, foreign currency, gold. Inflation destroys cash, it doesn't destroy assets. Stage 4 brought political chaos. The population was desperate, angry, humiliated, hungry. Hitler rose to power on the back of that economic devastation. Weimar hyperinflation didn't just destroy wealth, it destroyed society and led directly to World War II. Now an example from our lifetime. Venezuela, 20 years ago, was the richest country in South America. Stage 1. Venezuela, in the 1970s and 80s, had massive oil reserves and a strong middle class. Caracas was modern and thriving with shopping malls, universities, healthcare, a stable currency. Stage 2, socialist policies expanded rapidly under Hugo Chavez. Price controls, nationalization of industries, government spending exploded. Free housing, healthcare, education, subsidized food and fuel, all funded by oil revenues. For a while it worked because oil prices were high. But when you nationalize industries and impose price controls, production collapses. Venezuelan oil production peaked at 3.5 million barrels daily in 1998. By 2020, it was down to 300,000, a 90% collapse. Then oil prices crashed in 2014, and the facade collapsed. Stage 3, the government was trapped. It had made promises it couldn't keep, but revenues were gone. So they printed bolivars, massive quantities, exponential quantities. Inflation hit 1,300% in 2017, then 1,000,000% by 2018. Prices doubled every 18 days. Grocery stores emptied because price controls made it illegal to charge what food actually cost. Medicine disappeared. Hospitals ran out of basic supplies. People died from treatable conditions because the currency was worthless. People lost an average of 24 pounds from malnutrition, not dieting. Stage 4, mass exodus. Over 7 million people fled, 7 million out of 30 million population. A once prosperous nation reduced to humanitarian crisis in less than a decade. And here's the terrifying detail. Venezuela has more proven oil reserves than Saudi Arabia. This wasn't a resource problem, this was a monetary problem. They printed their way into poverty. 3 examples, 3 centuries, 3 continents. Same pattern, same stages, same outcome. Now let me show you why the United States is following the exact same script. The United States used to have stage 1 discipline. The Bretton Woods system established the dollar as global reserve currency in 1944. The dollar was pegged to gold at $35 per ounce. Foreign nations could exchange dollars for physical gold. This created real accountability and real limits. The Fed couldn't print unlimited dollars because France or Germany could demand gold in exchange. This made America the most prosperous nation on earth. But that system died in 1971. August 15th, President Nixon closed the gold window unilaterally. Why? Because we didn't have enough gold. We'd printed too many dollars funding the Vietnam War and Great Society programs. France knew it, and Charles de Gaulle started demanding gold for dollars. Nixon knew Fort Knox would be empty within months, so he closed the window. The dollar became pure fiat currency backed by nothing but government promise. That was the end of stage 1. We've been in stage 2 ever since, for 53 years. After 1971, U.S. debt exploded. In 1971, federal debt was $398 billion. Today, $38 trillion. That's an 8,700% increase. But the real acceleration happened after 2008. The financial crisis should have been a reset. Banks made reckless loans, packaged garbage mortgages into 888 securities, leveraged themselves 40 to 1. When housing prices stopped rising, everything collapsed. Lehman Brothers failed. Bear Stearns failed. AIG was hours from failure. Instead of letting the system reset, the Federal Reserve intervened with unprecedented money printing. They called it quantitative easing, but it's just printing money. QE1, $1.7 trillion. QE2, $600 billion. QE3, $1.7 trillion more. The Fed's balance sheet went from $800 billion in 2008 to $4.5 trillion by 2015. They quintupled the money supply, and what did that money do? It inflated asset prices. Stocks, bonds, real estate all went up. If you owned assets, you got richer. If you didn't, you fell further behind. Then COVID hit, and they went nuclear. March 2020, the Fed responded with the largest money printing operation in human history. $3 trillion in 3 months. More than they printed in the entire decade after 2008. The Fed's balance sheet exploded from $4 trillion to $9 trillion. Congress added fuel with stimulus checks, expanded unemployment, PPP loans, infrastructure bills. Total COVID spending exceeded $6 trillion. Inflation didn't spike immediately. It took 18 months. The money sat in bank reserves and asset markets first. Stocks hit all-time highs while millions were unemployed. Bitcoin went from 5,000 to 60,000. Billionaires added $3.9 trillion to their wealth while small businesses died. But then inflation hit the real economy. By mid-2022, CPI inflation peaked at 9.1%, highest in 40 years. Gas prices doubled. Grocery bills jumped 30 to 50%. What did the Fed do? They finally admitted the problem and raised rates aggressively, from 0% to 5.3% in less than 18 months. The fastest tightening since the 1980s. You know what that did? It made the debt unsustainable. That's stage 3. Crisis and desperation. The United States government now pays over $1 trillion per year just in interest. That's 13% of the entire federal budget. Not for schools, roads, defense, or anything productive, just interest. And that's with rates at 5%. If rates go to 7%, still below historical average, interest payments will exceed $2 trillion annually. That's more than Social Security, Medicare, and defense combined. And the debt is still growing. We're adding $2 trillion in new debt every single year. The government can't stop spending because the entire economy is now dependent on deficit spending. Cut spending significantly, and the economy crashes immediately. So the Fed faced an impossible choice. Keep rates high and let the government drown in interest payments. Let banks collapse under underwater bond portfolios. Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, First Republic already failed in 2023. Keep rates high and let housing crash. Mortgages at 7% make houses unaffordable. Keep rates high and let the stock market crash. 70% of Americans have retirement savings in the market. Or cut rates, restart the money printer, choose inflation over collapse. They chose option 2. They always choose option 2. September 2024, the Fed cut rates by 50 basis points. November, another cut. December, another cut. They're back in easing mode, back to printing, back to choosing inflation. But here's what's different this time. The world is watching and responding. China has been dumping U.S. Treasuries for 2 years, over $120 billion sold. Japan, the largest foreign holder, is tightening its own monetary policy. Saudi Arabia is diversifying, accepting yuan for oil now. The petrodollar system, foundation of dollar dominance, is fracturing in real time. BRICS nations are building alternative payment systems, settling trade in local currencies, buying gold at record levels. Central banks purchased 1,000 metric tons of gold in 2022, another 1,000 in 2023. Why? Because they see what's coming. When foreign nations stop buying our debt, stop accepting dollars for real goods, the Fed will have only one buyer left for treasuries itself. That's monetizing the debt. That's the definition of hyperinflation. That's a currency and terminal collapse. We're not in stage 3 by accident. We're in stage 3 by design. Every decision, every policy, every rate cut pushes us closer to the inevitable conclusion. The math doesn't lie. The debt cannot be paid. The interest cannot be sustained. The currency cannot hold value. Stage 4 is what comes next. There are only two possible outcomes: hyperinflation or default. Hyperinflation means the Fed keeps printing, keeps monetizing debt. Prices spiral. 10% inflation becomes 20, then 50, then 100. Your salary, savings, retirement accounts all get destroyed by devaluation. Default means the government admits it can't pay, officially declares bankruptcy. Bond markets collapse. Interest rates spike to 20 to 40% overnight. Banks fail en masse. Social Security stops. Government services stop. History gives us the answer. Governments always choose hyperinflation over default, 100% of the time, because default is immediate political suicide. But both outcomes destroy the middle class. Both outcomes concentrate wealth at the top. Both outcomes lead to social instability. So what do you do? First, understand stage 3 is about currency devaluation. Your dollars will buy less tomorrow than today. That process is accelerating. Second, protect your wealth. Diversify into hard assets, real estate in strategic locations, productive land with real utility, commodities, gold, silver, industrial metals, energy. These are real things with real demand. Gold has been money for 5,000 years. Every fiat currency in history has eventually failed. Gold hasn't. Equity in productive businesses with pricing power, companies that can raise prices as inflation rises. Foreign assets diversified geographically, Swiss francs, Norwegian krone, Singapore dollars, currencies backed by more responsible fiscal policy. Third, increase your skills and flexibility. Adaptability is survival. Skills are inflation-proof. Nobody can devalue your knowledge. Fourth, build community and networks. When systems fail, people survive through cooperation. Invest in relationships now: family, friends, neighbors. Fifth, stay informed. Don't trust mainstream narratives designed to keep you calm while the system extracts your wealth. And sixth, take action now. Stage 4 doesn't announce itself. It happens fast, exponentially fast. Venezuela went from prosperous to collapsed in less than 5 years. Weimar went from stable to hyperinflation in 2 years. The window for preparation is closing. The Federal Reserve made their choice. They chose to print. Now you have to make your choice. You can deny it, hope it goes away, trust the experts, or you can prepare, act, protect yourself and your family. The pattern is clear, the history is undeniable, the outcome is inevitable. Don't be the person who saw it coming and did nothing. Subscribe to the Equity Edge now. Next video reveals the 3 asset classes that outperformed during every historical empire collapse and the specific indicators signaling stage 4 transition. The window is narrowing. This is Marcus Caldwell for the Equity Edge. Stay informed, stay strategic.